Mark Few's getting inducted into the Hall of Fame. That is fantastic for Gonzaga, but also what a huge impact it is for getting them to the Pac-12.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Yes, welcome on into the show. It's a Locked On College crossover of Locked On Pac-12 and Locked On Zags. I'm Christian Rauh. He's Andy Patton. Welcome on into the show. Thank you for making the Locked On Podcast Network the #1 sports podcast network in the world. On today's episode, you know we're about the Zigger Zag. You know we're doing it, and we're probably going to do a sandwich of Zags because we're talking about the Zags at the beginning of the show, but in between, let's talk about those Oregon State Beavers. Justin Joyner spoke with the media earlier this week, and he had a lot of fantastic things to say. Andy's been high on Oregon State. Does that stay the same way? We'll talk about that in the middle of today's episode. But first, Andy, Mark Few is Hall of Fame bound. He is almost there, a few days away from being inducted on Friday. Obviously, the Gonzaga University's men's basketball coach, been there for quite some time. I think this is long overdue, regardless of him still being an active head coach. But this is not only big for him, not only big for Gonzaga, but secretly, even though he hasn't coached a single game yet in the Pac-12, this is very big for this conference.
Yeah, and Mark Few, he's the fifth current active coach to be inducted into the Hall of Fame. The other ones are the names that you would expect to see on that list: Rick Pitino, Tom Izzo, Bill Self, and John Calipari, all inducted as well. No Rick Barnes as of yet. No Kelvin Sampson from Houston as of yet, although he was on the ballot, so probably going to be joining in the not too distant future. But for Few and for Few's impact on Gonzaga, I think it's undeniably true that he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. Nobody really even pushed back. Like, you'll occasionally see some people like, he didn't win a championship, hasn't won a championship, whatever. But nobody really argued that Mark Few didn't deserve the Hall of Fame. Like, I think it's just so evident and clear that he belongs there for the impact that he has had on Gonzaga and on college basketball as a whole, and on the sport of basketball. If his case wasn't completely, I think his case was solidified after the 2021 season when they went undefeated until the national championship game. I think at that point it was like set in stone that he was going to make the Hall of Fame. But if you weren't there yet, he won a gold medal in 2024. He's one of the assistant coaches for Team USA alongside Steve Kerr was the head coach, Eric Spoelstra, Tyronn Lue, and him on that staff when they beat France in Paris. So that, to me, like, even further cemented the case that he should be in the Hall of Fame. But as I alluded to, Christian, I think the Pac-12 of it all is a factor here, in the sense that, I was going to pose it as a question, or like a theoretical, like, would Gonzaga be in the Pac-12 without Mark Few? But there's not a question. It's not a debate at all. No, they would not be. They wouldn't. I don't know where they would be, but they would not be in a conference like this. They would not be getting a full media share from a conference that is, on the precipice of being a power conference, without having a football team. Like, there's no possible scenario really where they would be in that conversation if Mark Few hadn't been hired as the head coach in 1999 and hadn't stayed for nearly 30 years as he has at this point. It's one of the most incredible, singularly impactful people in the history of a college basketball program, or college program period, in the history of the NCAA. And I don't think that's hyperbolic. I don't think that's an exaggeration at all. Gonzaga is not a known name. People would not know who Gonzaga is. I would not have a podcast about Gonzaga. I can absolutely guarantee you that. And they would just be a footnote, like a blip in the world of college basketball if they'd made that one deep run in 1998 under Dan Munson, and if Mark Few hadn't become the guy, I don't know. We certainly wouldn't be having this conversation, among many, many other things. Like, let's put it that way.
Yeah, forgive me for not knowing about 27 years ago in Gonzaga basketball history, but what did Gonzaga look like before Mark Few? Give the viewers something here. Yeah,
that's to be honest, in about 1995, I think 95, 96, they had one good year in there, and they had some good coaches. Dan Fitzgerald had been there, then Dan Munson took over, and Few started as an assistant. I want to say 91 or 92, early 90s. But they hadn't had a lot of historic success. John Stockton played at Gonzaga and was obviously phenomenal, and then went on to have one of the most historic careers in the history of the NBA. And he was there in the early 80s, but that was kind of the only real success they'd had in basketball until kind of the late 90s. They made the NCAA tournament. They won the WCC 2 out of 3 years in a little stretch there, but they weren't great. And in fact, they were talking about shuttering some of the athletic programs in the mid 90s. Like that was a time where a lot of athletic programs in colleges were struggling, and Gonzaga had not been profitable in athletics, as many teams had not. And they were truly talking about shutting the doors on either switching from D1 back down to D3 or NAIA, or just kind of abandoning athletics altogether. And then they went on the run in 1999, where they made it to the Elite Eight with the infamous win over Florida in the Sweet 16, where the slipper still fits, the iconic shot tip in by Casey Calvary. And that was under Dan Munson. Munson left after that to go take the head coaching job at Minnesota. Mark Few took over. And that could have been it. The same way it was it for Loyola Chicago or George Mason, or to a lesser extent VCU. They've been good, but haven't been back to that level. Or St. Peter's. Like, we've seen these incredible runs from teams to the Elite Eight, or even the Final Four from 11 seed type teams. And Gonzaga could have been just say one of the teams on that list, but then Mark Few takes over. He brings over Dan Dickau from the University of Washington. He transfers in, he becomes an All-American. Then they just build and build and build from there. They start dominating the WCC. They get Adam Morrison really kind of, pushes the program's hype into overdrive in the mid 2000s. And then they just stay steadily consistent, keep winning the conference. And then finally, about a decade after that is when they start really pushing for true national relevance. First time they were ever ranked number one in the country was in 2013. A lot of people think about Gonzaga as being this juggernaut team that has been a top 3 seed every year under Mark Few. They haven't. They were a top 3 seed, I think, once or twice, and then they were a 1 seed in 2013, and then again in 2017 when they went to the national championship. And since then, they have been pretty consistently in that conversation. But it was a slow burn, a slow, consistent burn for Gonzaga. But this is a program that was not even considering keeping college athletics for very long, and yet now they're in the Pac-12 and one of the most dominant men's basketball programs. But all of their athletics have been risen dramatically. Baseball's better, soccer's better, volleyball's better, everything is better. They have new facilities. I mean, their enrollment is skyrocketed. Everything changed at Gonzaga because Mark Few was able to keep this program successful after that miracle run in 99.
You gave me a blast from the past bringing up Adam Morrison's name. All I could think about was NCAA 07 because he was on the cover of that video game. I'm like wondering myself, because I have a stack of like old school video games. If I still have that, if so, it's going on my bookshelf. I thought that'd be a really fun thing. Yeah, I got to go find that now because I'm pretty sure he's on there. He's like holding the ball, getting all mad. Yeah, like it's absolutely on that. Exciting stuff. Look, for him heading into the Pac-12, obviously Gonzaga heading in there as well. What's left to do for Mark Few? Does this slow down the excitement? Does this slow down the energy or the want to be successful for a guy that now has basically done everything except one thing?
Yeah, I think a couple things. One, I don't think Mark Few cares that much about the Hall of Fame. And I don't want to say he doesn't care at all. It's obviously a tremendous honor, and I'm sure he is honored and everything. But like, this was not a goal of his. Maybe that's a better way to put it. Like he's happy to have been recognized, but if it didn't happen this year, he wouldn't have changed anything. He wouldn't have been disappointed. He would have just kept on doing his thing. I think getting Gonzaga into the Pac-12, that was a goal. And really, I think the goal for that was less get Gonzaga into the Pac-12 specifically, but more set this program up to be successful when he's gone. Like, I really think that was a big part of it, because, and not even just this program, set the university up to be successful, because you and I, Christian, have talked a handful of times on this show about how impactful this media deal is for Gonzaga, in the sense that they can allocate huge chunks of that money to men's basketball, but also it can help them supplement women's basketball and baseball and volleyball and soccer and all of their other sports in a way that keep them sustainable in an era where a lot of schools are struggling with that. And so Mark Few cares a lot more about getting this program into a conference that will help them stay sustainable when he eventually retires. I don't know how soon that's going to be. I think it is fair to assume it might be fairly soon. Like, he's made it to the Hall of Fame. He got this team into a new conference. This offseason has been hellacious for him in terms of roster construction. He hasn't had a minute to breathe. I'm exhausted covering this team. I can't even imagine what it's like for him and the coaching staff. His sons have graduated. His youngest son is now a graduate assistant at Arizona State. His other son works at Boise State. Like, there's one thing left. Like, I'll tell you this, if Gonzaga wins the national championship this year, I'd be quite surprised if he came back. I think that would be the way he would just tip his hat and be gone. If not, maybe he'll stick around a little bit longer. He is expected to be an assistant coach for Team USA in 2028. So maybe he sticks around through that. Who knows? But yeah, he's got one thing left to do. But I think his most important work was getting this team into the Pac-12. And I'm sure that is something he feels now that he has accomplished, he could go out and feel good about the future of this school.
It'd be a heck of a way to go out too, especially in the first year of the Pac-12. Oh man, could you imagine? Right. That would be absolutely insane. Could you imagine writing and talking about Gonzaga national champs? I know you've been thinking about it for a very long time.
Oh,
on the other side, let's talk about a team that is trying to rebuild themselves, and that is Oregon State. We'll do that right here, Locked On Pac-12. But first, this episode, Locked On Pac-12 and Locked On Zags, a college crossover, is brought to you by Odoo. Running a business shouldn't feel like you're trying to connect a bunch of systems that were never designed to work together. One app for accounting, another for inventory, another for sales, and somehow none of them talk to each other. That's where Odoo comes in. Odoo is an all-in-one business management software that brings every part of your business together in one powerful platform. From sales to accounting to inventory and marketing, everything works in one place, helping your team move faster, stay organized, and focus on growing the business instead of managing softwares. Well, it's definitely Hall of Fame material when Mark Few gets his teams where they need to be. There's a reason why he's getting inducted on Friday, because he made everything around him better, from the university to the coaching staff to the players. He had great execution, and great organizations win because operations matter. And that's why you should get Odoo. Try for free today at odoo.com/lockedon. That's odoo.com/lockedon. All right, welcome back to the show. It's a Locked On College crossover, Locked On Zags, Locked On Pac-12, and heading into the Pac-12 kind of conversation on today's show. Oregon State's new head coach, Justin Joyner, spoke with the media. New Oregon State men's basketball coach spoke to the media, and there were a couple main headlines that I took away from it. I'd like to get your thoughts on it as well. Also, no shameless plug as well. Andy is the co-host of Locked On College Basketball. Make sure you go check out that for your second listen. He won't tell you, but I will. So make sure that you go do that for your next listen today. Oregon State's guards. I mean, Justin Joyner seems very high on the guard play. He said that he believes that there's at least 5 guards that can do all different things. He described them as, and I'm going to say the word that he said, elite. He believes his guard play is elite already. That is huge. Let's start right there. That is huge when you're trying to get Oregon State back up to being a team that can compete inside this conference.
You know, I'm always interested to hear kind of the way coaches talk about their teams, and obviously new coaches, especially somebody like Justin Joyner, like you kind of haven't quite got the rhythm of how he speaks and communicates, and you know, when you can tell he's maybe frustrated with his team, when he's happy about his team, when he's just trying to gas his team up. You know, it's always kind of a fun dance to figure out with certain coaches. And with Joyner, the main thing that I took away from this was like, yeah, he truly is excited about his guards. I think any coach who's a first-year head coach is going to come in, you know, really extra amped and extra juiced about the squad that he's got put together, because you're certainly not going to inspire confidence if before you've ever coached your first game, you're like, oh, well, we'll see, you know, that's not going to fly. So I don't want to say I'm taking it with a grain of salt necessarily, sure, but I will say that like he could have said everybody looks elite, everybody looks great. And like that would it would be hard to take anything seriously from that. But he did focus on the backcourt. And I think you're right to notice that and point that out, because I think that is where this team's strength is going to lie. I think their X factor, I think their path, their avenue to being a top 4 team in this conference is the front court, because if the front court isn't good, that's just going to limit them significantly. But their backcourt is going to be good. Josiah Lake is one of the best players in this conference. The fact that Joyner got him to return to Oregon State even after a coaching change, you know, Lake was loyal to Wayne Tinkle. He stayed even though he could have transferred. He then had this really big season, and then his coach got fired. Anybody would have, you know, not been surprised to see him leave, and yet he comes back. His younger brother is now on the team as well, Jemai Lake. I'm really excited to see what the Lake Bros are able to do. Shout out Tualatin, Oregon, where they're from. That is where I went to high school. Don't see a ton of people from Tualatin at the D1 level in basketball, so exciting to see those two guys. But then you get Legend Smiley from San Francisco. You get Daniel Freitag from Buffalo, Deshaun Gorey from Fresno State, among a couple others. Chris Johnson as well is more of a wing. But I like this group. I think the question for Oregon State in both the backcourt and the front court is going to be, how does everybody coalesce? How does this whole team come together? Outside of the Lakes, nobody's really played together before. I guess Legend Smiley and Sean Blakely Drummond are both transfers from San Francisco, so maybe that helps a little bit. But ultimately, this is a team they got to find themselves. They're going to Canada next week to play in some exhibition games. I think that will help. I think that's a smart thing for any team to do, but especially a team that's as new look as this Oregon State team is, because the more reps you get together on the floor, especially against different opponents, the better. So I'm encouraged by that. I'm encouraged by this backcourt in particular. I think Justin Joyner is right to call this backcourt really good. I think Elite is maybe pushing it, but hey, we'll see. I think they have a potential to be one of the better backcourts in the conference alongside Gonzaga and Utah State in particular, who I think has a great backcourt. Colorado State's going to be tough too, but there's a lot of talent on this roster. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah, 5 guards. Obviously, you're not going to play them all either. So it depends. Like, how do you want to view that remark there? Is that a luxury or a problem when you're still trying to adjust roles? Right now, I'm going to stick in the luxury portion until we figure out more on that side. You brought up free tag, by the way. I was speaking to one of the beat writers that was actually at this availability, and he was telling me, he's like, you need to watch out for free tag. He's like, he called me. He's like, he's just got a different kind of swag. That's what he said. So watch out for him. He said that he believes that he could be one that really breaks out on the other side of Lake, maybe being like a type of duo on the team. So that's something to just kind of keep in mind in the back of your head for sure. He also said this, and again, it was a very positive availability from Joyner, which there's no reason not to be. You're playing your summer practice, you're preparing for the season. There's a lot of optimism in the entire athletic department of Oregon State right now. And they're doing a lot of good things, but he flat out said that we're ahead. And like, okay, it's a young team. It's got a rebuilding team. You know, he said he likes where the defense is at. He said the offense is improving, although there's some defensive struggles. The defense improves, and then he has some offensive struggles. He said the iron sharpening iron. He's doing all the coach speak on that. How much stock should we be putting in from a coach saying his team's ahead in August? That's what I'm trying to ask you here.
Yeah, I mean, not a ton, only because I don't know where he expected them to be. You know what I mean? Like,
great point.
If he had low expectations for where they would be at this point, and he's a first-year head coach also, so I think it's hard to. Like, it was hard for him to calibrate expectations. Obviously, he's been an assistant coach for a very long time, and certainly he has been on teams that have had significant roster overhaul, but he's never been the guy leading a team that has only one returner. Like, that is a new experience for him, a new experience for pretty much everybody on the roster, his assistant coaches, all of that. So my guess is he probably wasn't sure exactly where they'd be, but he does feel good, better than he thought he would about where they're at. And I think that is a good thing. I don't know that I take it all that seriously in the sense of knowing exactly what that means in terms of, where they're actually at, because who knows what he thought they would be at this point. But again, I'll come back to the exhibitions in Canada. They're playing 3 games. I think it's the 18th, 20th, and 22nd, I believe. Same 3 teams that Purdue just recently played. It's this 4-and 2-er that so many teams are able to do. And not only are you able to get exhibition games against Canadian colleges, like, these are college basketball players you're going up against. It's not typically D1 caliber opponents, but it's not nothing either. Like, it's real decent players at your age that you're playing against. But you're not only allowed to play those exhibition games, but when you do a 4-and 2-er, you get more practice time. That's why they're practicing right now. Most teams are not, but they are on the floor. They're practicing, they're gelling together, and they're getting to do that at a time when Gonzaga is not, when Utah State and San Diego State and Washington State and all of them are not getting to do that. And I think that is huge. That is incredibly significant for a team like this, that, again, Daniel Freitag has not played with a single player on this team. I think he's excellent. You look at his numbers last year in the MAC at Buffalo, he was tremendous. 18 points a game, nearly 4 assists, less than 2 turnovers, efficient shooter. Like, he's a really, really good player. He's got some experience from his freshman year at Wisconsin. But again, how good he is going to depend on, can he play next to Josiah Lake? And again, Joyner mentioned that and basically said Freitag is used to playing on the ball, but they've been having him, he's adjusted well to playing off the ball. That was one of the more significant things that I thought he said, because that could be a problem on this roster, is if you have too many cooks in the kitchen, too many guys who want the basketball. And you look at this backcourt, and Freitag's a guy who had the ball in his hands a lot. Josiah Lake's a guy who's had the ball in his hands a lot. Deshaun Gorey is a guy who's had the ball in his hands a lot. And so 2 of those guys are going to play primarily off the ball. And Coach Joyner's got to figure out who's going to do that, and not only who's going to be okay with that from like an emotional standpoint, like who's going to be okay adjusting to a new role, but who's actually going to be good at it. Because like you can be happy as a clam switching to a more off-ball role, but if you're not good at moving without the basketball or hitting open shots or attacking closeouts, it doesn't really matter how kumbaya you feel about it. Like you got to actually be able to do it. And so for him, Freitag being able to do that, it makes this team a lot more dangerous, because I think that was one of the biggest questions that I would have. It's part of the reason that I love Legend Smiley as an addition for this team, because at San Francisco last year, Legend Smiley scored 8 points a game and like barely ever dribbled. Like he moved without the ball. He'd catch the ball, he'd shoot the ball, and that was it. And like, he's the perfect movement shooter for this team. You just got to make sure that some of those other guys are comfortable playing a little bit away from the ball. And obviously a lot of this will be determined by what Coach Joyner's style as a coach is, which is just hard to know at this point since he hasn't been a head coach yet.
Yeah, I'll keep this last question short here before we move on to our final zig or zag of the day. He's rebuilding the culture. The entire Oregon State athletic department is really focusing on rebuilding the culture, because they knew it wasn't where it needed to be after last season across the entire university. And I think Justin Joyner is leading the charge here. You can say Jamarcus Shepard's doing a good job, but I think Joyner is leading the charge. He got the glove to come back. Gary Payton came back, and that's huge. It's not just a one-time thing it talked about. He spoke with the team. He was away from Oregon State for a very long time. I don't think that's worth not mentioning. I think that's worth mentioning for sure. He's one of the greatest in the game, let alone at Oregon State, one of the biggest legends in all of basketball. And him being able to come back and put himself back in the fold at Oregon State is absolutely huge, in my opinion.
Yeah, I will tell you this. Christian, I took notes while watching this interview with Justin Joyner. The very first thing that I wrote down on my note sheet was good relationship with Gary Payton. That's literally the first thing that I wrote down. So I'm with you 100%. There was some animosity. There was some frustration when Coach Tinkle got let go about how the administration kind of handled Gary Payton. Like he probably shouldn't have been a super serious candidate to immediately take over as head coach, but it sort of felt like they didn't really give him much of a look, and he was frustrated by that. And pissing off your most famous basketball alumni right after firing a coach is a disaster, especially when this team is joining a new conference. Like it was just not good. And so Joyner had to repair a relationship that somebody else damaged. And it seems like he did a great job. He prioritized getting out there and seeing him and visiting him and bringing him back to campus. They're both from the Bay Area. They've kind of bonded over that. This is huge. It's having Gary Payton on board is monumentally important for Oregon State. It may seem silly, but it's not. Like, I mean, for Gonzaga fans listening, you're like, well, sure. But like, Gonzaga has a good relationship with pretty much all of their alumni. They don't, and if one alumni has a frosty relationship, it doesn't impact that. But like for Oregon State, they don't have a ton of prominent basketball alumni. So the main one, like, you got to have a good relationship. So I think this is huge. I think this is important to have him as an ambassador to the program, potentially, get your hand in his pockets a little bit from an NIL perspective. Even if not, though, you feel good about his confidence and his willingness to kind of put his face and his name around this Oregon State basketball program. That's a really good sign of the future for them.
Yeah, I can see them giving him some type of role in there, whether it's some kind of coaching special advisor type of thing. Not only will that be a good thing for, repairing the relationship, but also probably making the fans a little bit more excited to, get the boosters going, because Gary Payton's involved with the men's basketball squad. All right, on the other side, let's talk Zig or Zag. It's a fun episode right here of Locked On College Crossover, Locked On Pac-12, and Locked On Zags.
But first, folks, today's episode is brought to you by Indeed. When workplace chaos hits and you need the right hire, Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you connect employers with candidates who match your specific needs, like skills and certifications and location, so less time gets spent searching and more time gets spent finding the right fit. People are finding quality hires on LinkedIn right now. In fact, in the minute that we've been talking to you, companies like yours have made 27 different hires on Indeed, according to Indeed's worldwide data. So whether it's your deadlines that are piling up too much on one person's plate, or you're trying to scale something quickly, the right person can completely change how your team operates. And that's why getting in front of a qualified candidate matters. So spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who check all of your boxes. It's way less stressful, it takes less time, and you get more results. Listeners, when you need the right person to cut through the chaos, that's a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help get your job the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support Locked On Zags or Locked On Pac-12 by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. That's Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? That's a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs.
Yeah, and this Locked On College crossover is also brought to you by our friends at Kalshi. Before season even kicks off, everyone's making predictions like who will win the division, who will make the playoffs, and who's lifting that trophy at season's end. Well, on Kalshi, America's #1 prediction market platform, you can trade those predictions in a live market. I got the NFL 2027 championship pulled up right now on Kalshi, and I'm excited because preseason games are starting on Saturday. I don't know if you knew this, but the Hall of Fame game last week, 7 million people watched that. Are you kidding me? People are excited for NFL, and I am too. And when I looked at this 2027 NFL champion, Andy, they are really high in the Los Angeles Rams to the point to where they are double the chance, 16% chance to the second, either of Buffalo or Seattle. Buffalo and Seattle are sitting at 8% chance at winning the Super Bowl. Are you that high on the Rams? To me, that's pretty wild.
I'm not that high on the Rams. I'm also not that low on the Seahawks. They returned like 80% of a team that won a Super Bowl last year. Like I know Kenneth Walker being gone is a big deal, but yeah, I'm surprised. I think the Seahawks are pretty good odds right now.
Yeah, for sure. If you traded $100 right now with the Seattle Seahawks, put them on the market, you would have an opportunity getting a max payout at over $1,100 if they were to go back to back and take on the NFL championship. You could do that with Kalshi, because on Kalshi, you're trading against peers in a live market, meaning there's no house. And as the probability changes, you can buy in and out of your position, trade the draft pick, the game, and more on Kalshi. Download the Kalshi app today. And check this out. If you use promo code Locked On, you can get $10 when you trade $10. That's KALSHI. It's Kalshi. Trade on anything. 18 plus only. Restrictions and eligibility requirements apply. Event contract involve risk. It may not be suitable for all investors. Kalshi products are not available in all jurisdictions. Prices, values, and available markets may differ from those mentioned. For more information, see Kalshi.com/regulatory. All right, final few minutes of this Locked On College crossover of Locked On Pac-12, Locked On Zags. I did that in all in one breath, by the way, so just want to say that shout out on that. So, but I'm not going to do this in all in one breath. It is our favorite segment of the week. It is Zig or Zag.
It's time for Zig or Zag.
Would you believe me if I said that was my voice, my singing voice?
I would not.
It was not. It was a lie. It was a complete lie. Welcome into to one of our favorite segments of the week, where we do Zig or Zag, where we talk about serious and ultimate serious, very serious topics across all the Pac-12 and maybe just life. I don't know, maybe just life. Let's start with one here. The Pac-12 has announced where they're going to put everything. You will be able to get every kind of sporting event for free at some place somehow, or either over the air TV. I should put it that way. Maybe not free, over the air TV, or on YouTube. Fall Olympic sports broadcast will be available free on YouTube. It begins tonight, Wednesday, with women's soccer. You can go to youtube.com/Pac12 and you can watch them for free. I think there are 4 games scheduled for tonight. I believe they all begin at 6 p.m. Eastern, or 6 p.m. Pacific time, excuse me. So you can check that out if you are just itching for Pac-12 coverage, Pac-12 sports. Well, tonight is the night to get that done. Andy, this is exciting. And I think this is a really big thing for the Pac-12, especially because the old Pac-12 had the premium content. There was a lot of issues against it. A lot of people hated it. Well, YouTube is the most accessible streaming service there is.
Accessibility and ease of watching has been such a priority for Commissioner Gould in the Pac-12. And I know that a lot of people have kind of when the conference was continually talking about, we're prioritizing, linear reach, we're prioritizing, being able to watch that over money. A lot of people thought, oh, you're saying that because you're not going to make as much money. We obviously don't know exact figures. Maybe to some extent there's some truth to that, but at the end of the day, this is a conference that really is prioritizing making it easy for you, the fans, to watch their sporting events. I don't see how that can be considered a bad thing. Most people have access to the channels that are going to show the football and men's basketball games, whether it's USA Network or the CW or CBS. Like most people, whether you have YouTube TV or Fubo or just regular old antennas, you can watch those channels. And now YouTube, again, like you said, one of the most, if not the most accessible way to watch anything on the planet. And you have Pac-12 Enterprises, they're going to produce the games. Eventually there's going to be a different DTC, a direct to consumer for the Pac-12. And maybe this is a stopgap. Who knows the exact details there. But at the end of the day, if you're somebody who wants to watch Pac-12 soccer and Pac-12 volleyball and some of the other fall sports, you have an easy avenue to do that. And I struggle to find any way to complain or be frustrated about that. I think that is great news for the Pac-12 and getting their first sports of the new look conference in front of as many eyeballs as possible.
Yeah, and I love the archive thing about it too. Like you missed the live stream, it's
Yep.
going to be still there. It's going to be there. You can tune in at any time. You don't have to worry about having, DVRs or anything. You can rewind, you can pause. I mean, YouTube is very easy when it comes to that, when it comes to watching sports for sure. The Pac-12 also released the founding partner and official beef jerky of the Pac-12. That's Old Trapper. Love that. Founding partner is something that obviously sticks out to you. And this is the quote. It says, being a founding partner of the Pac-12 is an honor for Old Trapper and reflects our longstanding commitment of college athletics. As a Pacific Northwest brand, we are proud to support the conference as it begins an exciting new chapter. We look forward to memorable experience for fans throughout the season. How much should we be paying attention to this? Is this an important thing for the Pac-12? Is this something that can add new things, or are you worried about the jerseys looking like NASCARs eventually?
I'm not concerned about the jerseys in this, mostly because it's just never something that has bothered me as much as it bothers other people. Does the Monster Energy logo on the Fertitta Center in Houston look bad? Yeah, but I feel like I'd watch one game and I would fade into the background. Like, it just, jerseys and stuff like that have never really bothered me the way they seem to bother people on the internet. But for Old Trapper, I like this because it's a local company. They're founded in a small store in a small town in Oregon. I like that they're going after a company or partnering with a company that has local roots. I think that's important. That's part of why, you probably get more money from a deal, if you were to go with like Red Bull or somebody to compete with the Big 12 and Monster. And I'm not saying those are bad, but I like the idea of partnering with local companies. The Pac-12 now, especially, kind of is on an island. The West Coast has always been a little bit on an island, and now with the bigger schools out here, leaving for conferences that are based elsewhere, prioritizing keeping that West Coast and mountain kind of ties together feels important, and Old Trapper is a company that does that. So I don't have incredibly strong feelings about this. I mean, if they were to slap a huge piece of jerky on your jersey, it was hideous, sure, that would be something, but I suspect this is a nice camaraderie, a nice partnership with a local company. That feels like a good thing to me.
Yeah, no doubt about that. I mean, regionality is important for the Pac-12 right now. Who knows if that continues, but looking across all the major conferences, it's really the Pac-12 and the SEC that really still only have regionality left at the moment. So focusing on that in your sponsorships probably means a lot as well. All right, final one. Let's end with a super serious one. I'm building a pizza oven in my backyard. I mean, it's wild. This is like mid-30s me trying to do some really fun things outside, and it's going well. I'm having an event this week, and I'm going to have some people over to have some pizzas, make them, have some good time on my back patio that I made this summer as well. My question is to you and all the listeners out there: what's your go-to pizza? If I made you just a nice crust, what are you putting on your perfect pizza, Andy?
Yeah, I think it's what is on the cowboy pizza at Papa Murphy's, which is usually black olive, sausage, pepperoni, cheese, obviously. Something like that tends to be what I like, but I do try other pizzas. There's a phenomenal one in Hood River, Oregon, has one of the best pizzas I've ever had at a restaurant called Soul. It's called Country Girl Cherry. And it's the cherry flavor. There's little cherries on it. And it's got different sauce on it. And it is phenomenal. It is not something I would have thought that I would have liked, but my wife's cousin was like, you have to try it. It's really good. And we went out there and we tried it, and it is phenomenal. So I will have become more adventurous in my pizzas. I don't really like barbecue chicken. It's never been one I've liked. I know it's really popular. It's never been my thing. So while I typically go for more standard pepperoni, sausage, black olive, something like that is probably the go-to for the most part, I'm willing to get a little adventurous too.
Yeah, I mean, I can never go wrong with a traditional cheese, but if I'm going to go a little crazy, I'm a huge fan of making buffalo chicken pizza. Buffalo chicken pizza is my way. Chicken wing pizza is what I call it, because I'm originally from Buffalo, New York area. And I think I make it the best way. You drizzle, blue cheese dressing on the top. You add the red onions, all that good stuff. That's where I go. And that is what I will be making for my very first one. I'm going to test it out. I haven't even tested it out. I've invited people over, and I haven't even tested out. I'm doing that later on this evening. So let's see. Maybe I'll show up to tomorrow's podcast with smoke on my eyes, like the cartoon character, because it blew up my face. But other than that, let us know your thoughts. I want to hear your go-to pizza. Maybe I'll get some ideas and be able to try it out at my event later on this week. That's going to wrap it up for this college crossover. It's Locked On Pac-12, Locked On Zags. Make sure you go check out whatever episode that you're listening to. We'll hop on over to the other channel, give them a subscribe, a like, a comment. It really helps out the algorithm as well. Let us push out more Gonzaga, more Pac-12 coverage to everybody else across YouTube. It really would mean a ton. If you're listening in audio, hit that subscribe button as well. Drop 5 stars, leave a review. Let us know where you're listening from. That really means a ton. Please like the video. Please subscribe. This has been a Locked On College crossover, Locked On Zags, and Locked On Pac-12.